Welcome everyone. This is your own channel Learner Saga. In this video we will discuss the story, rather an autobiography, My Childhood by Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam. Actually, this story is taken from his autobiography Wings of Fire. But before starting, I like to request you to press the like button, subscribe the channel if you are new, and also to please comment and share the video. So without wasting any time, let's begin. My Childhood by Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam. The full name of A.P.J. Abdul Kalam is Abul Bakir Jainulabdin Abdul Kalam. So in the before you read section, you can see that there are some questions. First question is, can you think of any scientists who have also been a statesman? Definitely, here in this story we will read the great statesman who was also the great scientist, Dr. Kalam. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, whose projects in space, defense and nuclear technology guided India into the 21st century, became our 11th president in 2002. So our present topic, my childhood, as the childhood of Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, and he became the 11th president of India in 2002. In his autobiography Wings of Fire, he speaks of his childhood. So as I told you earlier, our present topic, our lesson, My Childhood, it has been taken from his autobiography Wings of Fire. And here he speaks about his childhood days, his golden memories. Okay, so let's begin. I was born into a middle-class Tamil family in the island town of Rameswaram in the erstwhile Madras state. That means I, as it is an autobiography, definitely here I is Dr. Kalam himself. So Dr. Kalam was born into a middle-class Tamil family in the island town of Rameswaram in the erstwhile Madras state. So he was born in an island town of Rameswaram. Where is it? It is in Tamil Nadu. And erstwhile, that means formerly, before it was known as Madras. Nowadays it is known as the state Tamil Nadu, but erstwhile, that means formerly, when Tamil Nadu was not the name of the state, so during that time it was known as Madras state. So the very first line gives his identity, his birthplace rather, that he was born in the island town of Rameswaram in the erstwhile Madras state, and he belonged to a middle class Tamil family. So where is Rameswaram? Rameswaram is an island town in the state of Tamil Nadu in the Bay of Bengal. Rameswaram Island is also known as Pamban Island. Pamban, P-A-M-B-A-N, Pamban Island. It is situated between India and Sri Lanka on the Adams Bridge Archipelago. Archipelago means group of islands. So this Rameswaram town actually is an island, and it is situated between India and Sri Lanka. It's on the Adams Bridge Archipelago. There are so many small islands, and it's one of them, the Rameswaram Island. And the great scientist, he was born in this island, which is a part of our country, India. My father, Jainul Abdin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. His father, his father's name was Jainul Abdin, and he had neither much formal education, formal means the basic education, the formal education, and nor he had any wealth. He was very simple person. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom. However, he did not have wealth, he did not have formal education. Still, he possessed some innate wisdom. Innate means inborn, which is inborn with him. So, his father was a very wise person and a true generosity of spirit. Again, not only he was a wise person, but also he had some generosity also. That means he was a kind person. His spirit was very kind. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Ashiamma. And his father also possessed one thing, one good quality you may say, that is in the form of Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam's mother, Aishiamma, her name. So, Dr. Kalam's father, he was very wise person, very kind, and he possessed a helpmate, a helping hand, his better half, Ashiamma, Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam's mother. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. That means her mother was also very generous. She was also, his mother was also very generous. She was very kind. Like his father, his mother was very kind and generous. She used to feed people every day, not only their family members, but also some outsiders also. Even here, Dr. Kalam says that it may be that the number of people, the outsiders, that his mother used to feed them are more than their whole family members taken together. So the very first paragraph, it tells about Dr. Kalam's birthplace and about his parents also. If we are to gist this up, Dr. Kalam was born in a Tamil family. His father Jainulabdin was a very wise person. He was very generous and kind, although he did not have formal basic education and neither he had much wealth. His mother was also very kind and generous, and his parents used to feed the outsiders also. He was born in the town of Rameswaram, which is an island town. The island is located between India and Sri Lanka on the Adams Bridge archipelago. Now the second paragraph. I was one of many children. I was one of many children. That means he had many siblings. A short boy with rather undistinguished looks. He described himself that I was a very short boy with undistinguished looks. Undistinguished means simple. Born to tall, handsome parents. However, his parents were very tall and handsome, but Dr. Kalam did not inherit these physical qualities from his parents. He was a short person. We lived in our ancestral house. Ancestral means, you may say here, that is inherited from the parents or grandparents. So they lived in their ancestral house, which was very old, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. Middle of the 19th century means today we do live in the 21st century. So you can see here, by 19th century it means from 1800 to 1899, and it is said that it was built in the middle of the 19th century. That means maybe from 1850 to 1860. It may be. It was a fairly large Pakka house. Their house was a large Pakka house. Pakka means it is not made by mud, wood, etc. It is a house made by cement, mortar, bricks, rods, irons, etc. So it was a Pakka house made of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameswaram. So their house was a Pakka house which was made of limestone and brick. It was situated on the Mosque Street in Rameswaram. So the name of the street is Mosque Street. My austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. We have already known that his father was a very wise person. He was generous. Now another quality. He was very simple. Austere means simple, but strict and severe. And that's why he used to avoid all types of inessential comforts and luxuries. He believed in simplicity. However, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine, or clothes. But his father used to provide them with all the essential things, all the necessities, all the important necessary things, such as the food, the medicine, or the clothes. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. And here Dr. Kalam remembers that his childhood was very secure. His parents used to take care of him very much. And he says that he was secure both materially and emotionally. Materially means in case of materialistic aspects. That means by having all those that he needed at the time: food, cloth, medicines, everything. And emotionally, that means his father and mother also looked after his emotional attributions. They loved him very much and they cared about him. So this paragraph says about Dr. Kalam's past life. Here he says a few things about his childhood. That his father was very simple and they lived together in a large Pakka house in the Mosque Street of Rameswaram. The house was built of limestone and brick. Dr. Kalam remembered that he was a very short boy, although his parents were very tall and handsome also. Here we may find that how much Dr. Kalam is ground to earth. He remembers that he was not a very handsome boy. He was not very tall also. Now he again remembers that his childhood was very secure. That means his father and mother used to take care of him, used to take good care of him. Now the third paragraph. The Second World War broke out in 1939. We know that the Second World War, it took place in 1939 when I was 8 years old. That means he was born in the year 1931. For reasons I have never been able to understand, a sudden demand for tamarind seeds erupted in the market. So rationally, he never understood why there was such a demand for tamarind seeds in the market during that time. Tamarind is a kind of fruit, tamarind. So the tamarind seeds in that time, in those days, they were in much demand. People were readily going for this. So I used to collect the seeds and sell them to a provision shop on Moss Street. So see here, the great scientist, the 11th president of our country, he used to collect the tamarind seeds and sell them to a provision shop. What is provision? Provision shop here means like grocery shop. Okay, provision shop means the grocery shop, you may say. That is a shop for providing some useful things. And it was also on the Moss Street. A day's collection would fetch me the princely sum of 1 anna. So he remembers, Dr. Kalam remembers, a day's collection would fetch him. Fetch means give him. He used to earn money by selling them to the provision shop, and thereby he used to earn the princely sum of 1 anna. 1 anna, it is given in your book. Anna means an old Indian coin worth about 6 paise. So you can understand how meager it was during that time also. That's why Dr. Kalam has used the word princely sum. It is used in ironical sense. You can see here, princely sum means generous amount, large amount, you may say, but it is used here ironically. Ironically means, irony is a rhetorical figure or a literary device. It means the opposite of what is said is meant. So here Dr. Kalam says the princely sum. That means it was not at all princely. It was not at all a large amount. During his childhood days also, it was not a very good amount. However, to a boy like him, he enjoyed earning money. The 6 paisa, that is the 1 anna. My brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about the war, which I would later attempt to trace in the headlines in Dinamani. So he had his brother-in-law, his name, it is given here, his name was Jalaluddin, and he used to tell him stories about the war, that means the Second World War, which he would later attempt to find out in the headlines in the Tamil daily newspaper Dinamani. Okay, so initially Jalaluddin, his brother-in-law, would used to tell him the stories about the war that was going on during those days. But Dr. Kalam was not satisfied with the stories. He himself tried to find out some information about those stories in the headlines in some newspapers. And here the one of the newspaper's name is given. It's a Tamil newspaper. It's a daily. Name is Dinamani. Our area, being isolated, was completely unaffected by the war. So you can see that as the Rameswaram Island. It is situated between India and Sri Lanka. It's in the Bay of Bengal. It's on the Adams Bridge archipelago. So you can imagine that it's far from the humdrum towns or cities of the main India. It was located in the Bay of Bengal. So it was isolated. It was not in direct touch with the main stream of the country. That's why it was isolated and unaffected by the war. But soon India was forced to join the Allied forces. Later on, India was forced to join the Allied forces. There were two groups. One of them was the Allied forces, where there are some important countries like the UK, United Kingdom, the USA, United States of America, and Russia during the Second World War. So India joined by this side, favoring the UK, USA, and Russia. And something like a state of emergency was declared. Dr. Kalam remembers that after that state of emergency, something like a state of emergency was declared. Although it was during that time when India was under the British. India was not independent during that time, so we may not say directly that a state of emergency, that means the presidential rule, was prevalent during that time. But Dr. Kalam says it was it was like the state of emergency. The first casualty came in the form of the suspension of the train halt at Rameswaram station. So the war has its disadvantages also, and the first casualty means the first loss that they had in the form of train halt was cancelled in the Rameswaram station. Previously, the trains used to stop there at the Rameswaram station, but later, when the war broke out, it was the first loss that trains were not given the permission to stop at this station. The newspapers now had to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train on the Rameswaram road between Rameswaram and Dhanuskodi. So as the trains were not permitted to stop there, the newspapers that come by the train, they throw the newspapers, bundling them in the road, in the Rameswaram road that was between Rameswaram and Dhanuskodi. That forced my cousin Samsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameswaram, to look for a helping hand to catch the bundles, and as if naturally I filled the slot. So the story is very interesting. What happened when the war broke out, the Second World War? The trains were not given the permission to stop at the Rameswaram station. The halt was cancelled. It was taken away and the trains were not given the permission to stop there. That's why the newspapers that came at the Rameswaram station, they were also hampered. How? The trains were not to stop there. So the newspapers were thrown out of the moving train in the road, in the Rameswaram road, and the road was between these two places, Rameswaram and Dhanuskodi. In those days, Dr. Kalam's cousin Samsuddin distributed newspapers in Rameswaram. So as the trains were throwing the newspapers out of the moving train, so Samsuddin had to have some helping hand who would assist him by catching the bundles and thereby helping him to distribute the newspapers. And Dr. Kalam says that as if naturally I filled the slot. That means it was quite natural that he filled that empty place as his assistant, as Samsuddin's assistant. Samsuddin helped me earn my first wages, and thereby Samsuddin helped him to earn Dr. Kalam's first salary. Wages means salary. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge of pride in earning my own money for the first time. Although 50 years have been passed when Dr. Kalam first earned the wages, the salary, still he feels pride. He feels proud when he remembers those incidents of earning his first money, own money, for the first time. So the third paragraph, it says very beautifully about Dr. Kalam's some past incidents. We also come to know about the war's effect on the Rameswaram city. The trains were not given the permission to stop there, and as a result the newspapers were thrown out of the moving train, and Samsuddin and Dr. Kalam used to catch them and distribute them. Thereby Dr. Kalam earned his first salary as the assistant of Samsuddin by helping him to catch the newspapers which were thrown from the moving train. Dr. Kalam says that he was also had the knowledge of the war from the mouth of his brother-in-law Jalaluddin. Later he also acquired some information from the newspaper Dinomani. So now chapter number 4, paragraph number 4. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. Dr. Kalam says that every child is born with some inherited characteristics. That means every child is born with some special quality. Characteristics means features. Inherited means bequeathed. Bequeathed, bequeathed. Or you may say inherited means got from the parents or ancestors into a specific socio-economic emotional environment. Every child has its own social, economical and emotional environment. It differs from child to child and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. And definitely a child gets training in some specific ways, particular ways, by figures of authority, by their guardians. Figures of authority, it means some persons who guide, or you may say a person who has the authority over another person. I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father. From my mother, I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness, and so did my 3 brothers and sister. Dr. Kalam remembers these things. At first he said that a child is born with some special qualities, and definitely the society, the economic condition, the emotional environment, all matters. All is different and it varies from child to child. A child is also trained by their respective guardians in some particular ways. Remembering all those things, Dr. Kalam here says that he inherited honesty and self discipline from his wise father, and he inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness from his dear mother. Not only he himself acquired all those things from his parents, but his siblings also acquired all those beautiful qualities from their parents. I had three close friends in my childhood: Ramanatha Sastri, Aravindan, and Siva Prakashan. So these are the names of Dr. Kalam's childhood friends. All these boys were from orthodox Hindu Brahmin families. As children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringing. So, although they were the orthodox means who follows strict religious views, they were orthodox Hindu Brahmin families they belong from, but as a children they never felt any difference among themselves. In fact, Ramanatha Sastri was the son of Pakshi Lakshman Sastri, the high priest of the Rameswaram temple. So as a childhood friend, he had Ramanatha Sastri, who was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Sastri. Who was Pakshi Lakshmana Sastri? He was the high priest of the Rameswaram temple. So here is the very good example of Hindu-Muslim friendship. Later, he took over the priesthood of the Rameswaram temple from his father. So, when his father became old, Dr. Kalam's friend Ramanatha Sastri, he became the priest. He became the priesthood. He became the main priest, the high priest of the Rameswaram temple. Aravindan went into the business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims. Another friend, it is given here that he went into the business, and his business was to arrange transport facilities for visiting pilgrims. Pilgrim means the persons who go to some religious places. And Siva Prakashan became a catering contractor for the Southern Railways. So these are all his three friends. They took different occupations. And here in this paragraph, in paragraph number 4, we have learnt about Dr. Kalam's childhood friendship. Here it is said that Dr. Kalam had close association with some Hindu boys as his friends. Some of the friends were Orthodox Hindu, and one friend was the son of the high priest in the Rameswaram temple. He himself became priest when he grew up. And another two friends, it is given here that one became the transport manager. He used to arrange the transport facilities for visiting pilgrims. And another was Siva Prakashan. He used to manage the catering. He was a catering contractor for the railways, the Southern Railways. Now number 5. During the annual Sri Sita Ramakalanam Ceremony, our family used to arrange boats with a special platform for carrying idols of the Lord from the temple to the marriage site. Situated in the middle of the pond called Rama Tirtha, which was near our house. So here is one occasion, that Kalyanam ceremony. Okay, in Tamil Nadu, Kalyanam, the word Kalyanam means marriage. Sita Ramakalanam ceremony is known as Kalyanotsav. It means marriage festival. In Tamil Nadu, marriage is known as Kalyanam. So Ram and Sita's marriage is referred to the Kalyanam ceremony. And during those times, their parents of their family used to arrange boats with some special platform. You can see here the boat with some special platform, and it is for carrying the idols of the Lord. Here it is, you may see they are carrying the Lord, the idol of the Lord, from the temple to the marriage site. And what is the marriage site? The marriage site, or the place, site means place. It is situated in the middle of the pond, and the name is Ramatirtha, which was near Dr. Kalam's house. As we know that it was also in the island, so this pond is near Dr. Kalam's house in the Rameswaram. Events from the Ramayana and from the life of the prophet were the bedtime stories my mother and grandmother would tell the children in our family. Dr. Kalam also remembers that during their childhood days, they used to learn the Ramayana, the events from the Ramayana, and also some stories from the Islam, the prophet. It were the events of Ramayana and the life of the prophet. All these were their bedtime stories. Their grandmother and their mother used to tell those stories from the prophet, from the life of the prophet, and also from the Hindus, the Ramayana. So here you can see that not only the prophet, that means some Islamic stories were told by the grandmother and mother, but also some events of the Ramayana also. So you can understand that they were very secular. They did not believe in strict religious views. It's a very good example of Hindu-Muslim friendship or unity, you may say. So we have completed this paragraph number 5. Here we come across that some occasion, some festival is there, the Kalyanotsav, or the Kalyan ceremony, which means the Sita Ram's marriage ceremony. It is being celebrated in the Ramatirtha. It was being celebrated in the Ramatirtha. It was in the pond, and for this purpose, Dr. Kalam's family would arrange some particular type of boats to carry the idols of the Lord. And during their childhood days, they also used to learn or listen the stories from the Ramayana and the life of the prophet during their bedtime. So that's it for today, students. In the next video, we will try to complete this one. But if you find any problem regarding this, you may please comment on the comment section of the video. I will try to answer you. Hoping to meet you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.